Hello and welcome back to War Thunder. Welcome to the tank review of the Panzerwerfer 42, which is the German rank 2 battle rating 3.7 rocket launching half-track. And it is, of course, a premium vehicle. Now I will give you a full rundown about the important statistics of it, and I will compare it to its main opponents on the battlefield. Furthermore, I will give you from the beginning gameplay as I try out a new format for this rather unique vehicle. And it has to do that on some stats we have to talk nearly nothing about, whereas usually I spend like 20 minutes in the hangar to talk about certain stats. On the other hand, we need to talk a little bit about certain other stats and features of this tank. First of all, this tank costs 4,800 golden eagles, and it is just a rank 2 at battle rating 3.7. That's the equivalent of 25 euros. Is that worth it? To make it short, no. If you want to have a vehicle that is basically a tier 2 premium, you can purchase much better and more multiple gun vehicles, so to speak, of premium vehicles, and also put talismans on them. And right now you can see I launched 10 rockets here in realistic battles and I have nothing except an MG42. We will see how it goes. At this point it's better to just bail out and yeah, jump into a backup. So, and that is practically the most efficient way to bring it back into battle. Now those rockets are difficult to aim, I have to say it. And 42 millimeters of penetration, you actually have to hit a T-34 multiple times on the side armor to really penetrate him and kill him. And very often you need multiple rockets for that. Well, I think it's best to begin the proper tank review. Let's begin to talk about the armor, and the reason why I'm not doing it in the hangar has the simple reason that there is not much to talk about. You have just 8 millimeters everywhere. Granted, there is another 8 millimeter plate in front of the driver and the commander, and the most armored single part is the turret with 10 millimeters, but that's it. So you're highly vulnerable to both bombs, rockets, any kind of heavy machine gun, even light machine guns when they're flat on, and triple A's and flags, they would just eat you up. And you just have, when we talk about the interior, you just have like three crew members in the driving compartment, the driver and the commander, and sitting beneath the rockets and the fuel tanks, or on top of the fuel tanks, is the gunner. And you can die by a single hit, even from AI units, as we will see later on. Also, I think there are internal ammo racks, but they are empty. They could hold up to 12 rockets, according to when you counted up the empty places, but they are empty. So that means you're literally down to 10 rockets, and that's it. And if it would have like 20 or something like that, it would be much better. You could take on more enemies than you can do now. Now, the internal is also relatively empty and nobody shoots really that low to ignite the fuel tanks, but that's the only benefit that you have, I guess. I really can't recommend this as a proper tank. But sometimes enemies are blind, ignore you, and then you have an easy time with them. But this is nothing I would purchase this vehicle for, to rely on the enemy to make stupid decisions. Now, what about the mobility? You can see it here, it's not really a light tank, and that has to do, as you can see on the stat card, for the 7.1 ton tank, we have just 68 horsepower. That means less than 10 horsepower per ton. That makes it really heavy and sluggish, and especially up hills, it really, really struggles. Now the top speed is in theory not that bad. 47 kilometers an hour is rather nimble. But like with many tanks that have a low horsepower to ton ratio, you really struggle to actually achieve it. except in city streets when you can drive a long way, but that's again rather the exception. You drive around with just like 20 kilometers an hour most of the time, and then you try to get in position. And that is the next problem, because let's talk about the gun handling. As we can see, -5 degrees of gun depression, and that also just works over the top, over the side. Like with the, yeah, that was me getting killed by an AI. The vehicle is that well armored. Sarcasm off. The the rockets are mounted very high. That could mean that you could fire from cover, but on the other hand, it really is difficult to make them work over the front because there we have 0 degrees of gun depression. That is the equivalent of the Flak 88 from the Germans, where you just have the bit of gun depression over the side. And now let's really begin to talk about the rockets themselves. They are 15 centimeter rockets, which give them a really high caliber. One of the highest calibers in War Thunder. But the penetration is just 42 millimeters. I will come to this back in a moment. It's not good enough to kill a KV-1 from the side, as you just could see. And, you know, the rate of fire is practically 1 rocket per second, or 60 rounds per minute. And the reload rate in realistic is 10.4 seconds for a single one. And for all 10, that means you are sitting in the capture zone for over 100 seconds trying to reload your 10 rockets that you could empty in like 10 seconds. And the problem with those rockets is that they are purely HE rockets. Now, HE overall is really good when it's high caliber, but this tank simply lacks the penetration. That's the problem. You know, you have such a sensitive fuse that the shell or the rocket goes off at every bush, at every obstacle, every debris, every lantern in the way. Everything that is in its way will let go of the fuse, which is highly annoying because that means you need a clear line of fire, but that also makes you easy to detect for the enemy. But then you can get shots off like this, you know, so not too bad. On the other hand, because of the slow mobility, you also can always rely on somebody being behind you. Wait for it, wait for it. And remember, it takes just one shot for the enemy to kill you. And there you can see the mobility uphill. Not good enough to escape a Cromwell. It really doesn't matter where the enemy shoot you, they always kind of kill you. While the vehicle seems to be large, it gets taken out relatively easy. It's really that low survivability with this low mobility and the unreliable firepower. And I think it's time now that we actually talk about the rockets themselves. And no, it's been a while, and you know, talking about the rockets in comparison, there you can see the beautiful launcher. It's actually modeled really beautiful. I have to give it to Gaijin. They know how to design vehicles. So I again collected all the data that is worth collecting on this vehicle, and I compare the shell caliber, the number of shells, the pen value for the high explosive effect, to all the other rocket launching vehicles, excluding ATGMs, I have to hasten to add, and also some other tanks with high caliber main armament. And we can see that amongst the, not just the other rocket tanks, it has the highest or the second highest caliber with 150 millimeter. Just the Cromwell RP3 has a slightly higher caliber. And also amongst the tanks, it has the second highest caliber. And it has the same caliber as the German Brummbär. The number of shells is relatively low with 10 compared to the Cromwell, which I have to say also has a gun as backup and, proper mobility and a bit of armor. And also the RBT5, but that was a reward vehicle for purchasing the dog tag in the Thunder League earlier this year. So it's kind of out of the proportion. And yes, there was no caliber given in the description, it just stood as tank torpedo. When you see this tank, you know what you're talking about. So all the other tanks have more rockets. They have rockets of kind of the same caliber, except the Calliope, the BM8, and the M201699. And they have just more of it. And even in the penetration value department, it is nothing special. It is the second lowest after the Calliope, the BM824, and again the M201699. And actually, I made a mistake here. For the BM824, it's not 29, it's 24 millimeters of penetration. So sorry about that. So that gives you a rough idea what this tank is about. And, yes, when you have the sight of an enemy, you can make it work. But then also it's difficult to aim. And, I think that's it basically with the tank review. So let's just summarize it again. This tank has literally no armor. The mobility is best described as under average. The survivability is very low. The firepower is questionable. The price is very high for a low tier premium vehicle. So the question is, do I recommend this vehicle? If you want to go for a proper research vehicle, then no. Go for something else. Invest this money into War Thunder, maybe even more, and get for this Golden Eagles multiple talismans on normal tech tree tanks at higher tiers, or even purchase some higher tier premium tanks. And, so this is more of a collector's item. I might have mentioned it before. The sound of the rockets is definitely cool. It is fun and satisfying when you kill somebody by blasting him with a rocket in the face. But, this is kind of fun for the first, let's say, 10 battles. And then that's it. After that, you just let it in your garage and try to spade your normal tanks and try to research other tanks with other premium vehicles if you have them. And there you can see, you have even difficulties going through a stone wall. This is, after a while, it's more frustration than being excited about the rockets. And so, are other tanks better? The Calliope, definitely. It has more rockets. You can salvo fire them. I mean, you have 60 rockets in comparison to just 10. And you also have a gun to back it up. So practically you can work with the gun like a normal tank. And when you then miss your shot, or you have to disable the enemy by, taking out the gun or something, you just can spam them with the rockets. Also, the survivability is much higher, especially against artillery strike and cannon fire from AAAs or from aircraft even. The Calliope is much better, but it's also much more expensive. I mean, like twice the price. The M26 is a completely different matter, as it is really, really expensive because you have to purchase the Calliope to be even able to purchase the M201699. Sorry about this. We basically have the Cromwell RP3. It's a Cromwell with additional rockets. So again, mobility, decent protection, you have it all. The BM824 is kind of in the same region as the Panzerwerfer 42. Fun for the first few times, a little bit derpy, but that's about it. So I can't say anything too positive about this vehicle. I'm sorry, I would have loved to, derp enemies in the face with just one rocket. This is not a KV2 shell. And when somebody knows that you're there, he can relatively easy outplay you, and your options are more than limited. So I guess we just have to watch some more gameplay. And before I could react to this AAA, those were just 50 calibers, and I was slightly angled. Didn't matter. He went through my armor anyway, killing 2 of my crew members. I'm done. So, then this is practically my backup vehicle. I spotted a vehicle, and you can see the reverse gear is also not the very best. And I have to sacrifice again a lot of rockets on this fences and debris. And somebody else took out the tank before my rockets could go through there. Now let's try to take out this KV-1. We tracked him. Good. That's all we did. Now we got a decent hit. I have no idea why this one penetrated, and it set him on fire. And when he would have shot back at me, I would have been dead. And again, you can see... What is that even? Try to turn the turret. I have no rockets left. That's all I got. It's an M15. And he just wasted his time trying to get the gun on target. And this is the problem with the small tanks. I mean, yes, you can take them out, but I just wasted like 4 rockets. With a direct hit, it would have been just 1. So, I'm not sure about this. And I show you this battle from now on to just give you an impression how it runs in the rather long term. Up until now, you just saw some sequences of me just, being in action. And that was lucky. Now, I was very lucky that both the T-34 just didn't kill me in the first run, but I also was lucky to kill him with the last rocket. And then I went actually back to the capture point that we have, and I did not just do the repair and the crew replenishment, but also try to get back some ammunition. And you can see how long it takes, and the second you move, it's over. And there was some action on the side, but I couldn't see anything. And I hope that nobody paid attention to me so far. It sounded like, yeah, there was the kill message at CIS 30. Now that CIS 30 is actually a very good target for me if I manage to bring my rocket to bear. And I still have to be in the cap circle. I know there is some enemy, but I can't get into cover. I have to reload. And I can't do it with just 3 rockets. What if I miss something, or there is a bush in the way, or something else happens? I need as many rockets as possible. And so I wait. Maybe there is some backup that comes into place, and I see some traces flying around. Somewhere there in the bushes he is, and I have like 6 rockets. And again, I wasted 3 of them on somebody that was just killed. I didn't see the kill message in time. I was too focused on the target. A Panzerwerfer took out this Sherman, I guess. And again, I have to spend half a minute for this short burst to reload to get up back to 6 rockets. And, in arcade, it is different. In arcade, you reload the entirety of the clip within 30 seconds, I guess, even without being in a cap circle. So this might be a much better tank in arcade. But again, I had no time to test it out. If I'm right, you also have no aim indicator in arcade for the rockets. It would massively help. If it is so, and if you have any experience, let me know in the comment section. Now, I guess this tank would be really great for some cinematic stuff, but who does own this tank at all? And then getting it together might be more than difficult. and you know, to actually hit an era with more than one tank is more than difficult. Now I could speculate here that this tank actually offers some kind of artillery support, and as I mentioned, the sound is very terrifying indeed. Huge shout out to the War Thunder sound design department. And we can see there is somebody. There is somebody. I see him, and I can't turn the turret in time, and also I struggle with the gun depression. He takes out my gunner, sets me on fire. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. That's actually the Russian. That's actually the Russian AAA vehicle. There he is. Yes, directed. Now I have to give it to those rockets. When they hit something very lightly armored, they do tremendous amounts of damage. And I was just saved by this German AAA that actually disabled the Russian for me to get back my gunner and to fire the rockets. And you could see, I just did the crew replenishment, and again I'm down to 2 crew members, and that actually enhances, or you know, increases the reload time for the rocket because you're down to 2 crew members. As far as I can tell, I'm not quite sure about this, but whatever. You know, you're not that often in the situation to actually being able to reload. And we go up the hill, and you can see how slow it is. For having no armor, it's way too slow. It's just you're almost dying in front of the screen. Yeah, it's Hürtgen Forest is not a very good map. And that's actually an AI. That's the only reason why I survive. And that was a lucky shot on the track going through the lower plate, or no, the bottom plate of this BT7 bot, and igniting the ammunition. But again, it took me like 6 rockets, and if this guy would have been player controlled, I would be dead. Yes, I didn't pay attention to it because I know it was a bot, but just mentioning it. Everything can kill you very easily. This is not the equivalent of like a T-35 that has multiple crew members to spare, so to speak, or to use as meat shield. This tank is just really struggling. Let's have a quick look at the post-battle results, and there you could see that my test drive just expired, and no, I'm not willing to pay for this tank. If you like it, let me know why, and I think that's it for today. And you can see even the income is not really that great, and that was a decent battle for realistic. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Let me know in the comment section what your opinions are about. I hope this video has helped you out, and we'll see each other on the battlefields of War Thunder.